Yeah, it's so interesting how kind of the idea for I've not published any of my writing. I'm working on it. Um
Yeah.
and so but the idea for me came from I was working in a factory the factory's called Bun-O-Matic. They make bun coffee pots. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
those are famous.
Yeah,
Those are
so
Gatsby.
I was working at the factory, and so my whole job was take this part and take this part, put it on a spot welder and hit the button for
Right.
8 hours a day.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so as a creative type, this really freed my brain up to because I'm not
Yes.
having to think about what I'm doing. And so that same thing, it just kind of all of a sudden just appeared back here somewhere. And then I
Yes.
had a few years to sit with that and come up with it. And now I'm like 10, 15 years later and I'm still figuring it all out. But
Well, that took me the same time, Brendan. I think
mhm.
that's sometimes you talk about, a badge of honor. That's kind of the badge of shame. Like, why is it taking so long? But I wouldn't beat yourself up over that. It
Yeah,
it comes when it comes.
yeah, I've definitely kind of taken the stance now. I was just talking with the last person I talked to about this, where I me and my wife, we have a daughter, she's 9, and
Yeah.
we're in our mid 30s, and we've got careers, and our daughter's in all sorts of stuff, and like my wife just started a new business, and so it's kind of like we're just in that season of life where it's accepting,
Oh,
like, we just
yeah.
maybe I'll write them and publish them when I'm in my 40s, like
Yeah.
do the best you can, but you have to accept that those times in your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know what I call those? I call the 30s the blur years.
Hmm.
Because they're very enriching in the sense that, I mean, you notice in your 20s, it's like, who am I going to become, or what's my purpose? As if you've got this huge menu. And you remember the game of life. If I wait, I can take this path, become a doctor, or become a mechanic. But
Hmm.
in your 30s, game on.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not thinking about those things anymore because you're embracing life in its fullest. But at the same time, you're going to look back when you hit your 40s and go, what the heck was that all about?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, I saw a great quote about something. I don't. This isn't exact, but it was something about like your 30s is almost the hardest time in your life because you're working on your career. You're trying to do whatever
yeah,
side hustle that you actually care about. You're
right.
also raising kids, and you're maybe
Yeah,
newly married, and you just bought a house, and nobody's
yeah.
telling you how to do it.
No.
You know?
No, and you're an imposter the entire time.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? If anyone finds you out, you do not know how to do any of that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
I recently did a career day at our middle school here where we live, and the I walked in, and it was quite a few people I know. We're in a small town, so we know it's easy to know most everybody. But I just said, all these kids are about to find out that we're all just faking it till we make it. you
I
know?
know. I know.
Yeah.
But our parents knew. We knew our parents knew, but we're all fakers,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah. I'm sure every generation goes through that.
Yeah.
But you know what? Those years that you even now aren't a waste because it's enriching you. Every life experience raising your kids, the business that you're doing, is going to be another piece that you can use in feathering those stories out later on.
Yeah. Well, and it's ultimately led to, I feel like I have plenty of time. The way I've kind of turned it in my head is I have plenty of time to come up with ideas.
Yeah.
So, I'm constantly able to reevaluate my stories and kind of work on the outlines and come up with some new ideas and find a new. I just texted my brother the other day and was like, I just thought of this great thing, that
Yeah.
I could put in it, but because not putting the pressure on it to I have to get this done by the time
Yeah.
I'm whatever. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. There's different schools of thought, and there's a quite a bit, and I'm not saying they're wrong at all, but there's a school of thought that you just pound it out every day, whether you feel like it or not. It's almost treating like writing like exercise. You don't have to like it, but you got to get up and give me 20 push-ups every day.
Mhm.
That just hasn't been my experience. I'm sure if I did that, it would just produce a different kind of product.
Yeah.
Maybe it would be more mechanical. Maybe it'd be more productive in terms of volume. If you're looking to be a prolific writer,
Mhm.
that's probably the way to go about it. But I was always, I wait for moments of inspiration where it really comes. And then I save the hard work for more the mechanical things like, oh, it needs some editing.
Yeah.
So, but I don't try to push through the plot mechanically like hard.
Yeah.
Like wait for it. And sometimes what I do is I'll take a pause and I'll say, what does this story want to say? instead
Mhm.
of what do I want to write. It's not about me. I look at myself as I'm a conduit of a story that's coming in and through me.
Mhm.
Well, what does that story want to say? And as best I can, I try to get out of the way of the story and let
Yeah,
it just kind of come through.
for sure. Yeah, it's kind of that idea of the sculptor, you're just uncovering the thing that's already there. You're just finding
Yeah,
it. Yeah.
yes. And that
Yeah.
takes some pressure off.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm reading a book. Do you know who Cal Newport is? He wrote
I'm not
he writes nonfiction stuff. He wrote a book called Deep Work, and
okay.
anyways, he wrote a book that I'm reading right now called Slow Productivity, and kind of what he's talking about in there is this idea of like that, this is a very general broad overview of it, but like essentially, is it worth do you is it worth quantity or do you want quality? So
Yes.
do you want to write a bunch of books? Do you want to make a bunch of art pieces? Or do you want to
Good.
spend your life creating one or two or three things that are truly great? You know,
Right.
like
Right.
Lord of the
That's
Rings is
good.
a great example. You know,
Yeah.
it took Tolkien how long to write those? He wrote all this other stuff that got published later,
Yeah.
but he really mostly created the book that is the Lord of the Rings
Right.
and the Hobbit. So, and look at how lasting of an impact that's had.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's, qualitative, quantitative. That's the decision authors to make. And some people, it's just a career.
Mhm.
So, one of the things I kept reading about is, there's so much just flim flam stuff about, it will help you as an author, da 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 da. And one of the biggest tips was just give away your first book. Give away your first book.
Mhm.
And my thought was, well, how am I going to do that? That's the only book I have.
Yeah, for sure.